welcome back. I'm Cyber Bree, or Bree. I'm fine with both, honestly. It's been a while since I made my last video. I'm trying to get a concept of how often I should post, as most of my videos are just going to be updates on my journey through this bootcamp that I created. I'm also thinking about doing some videos where I may show myself doing the lab so we can do them together. But let me know which one you would prefer or what kind of videos you would prefer me to do. I'll be happy to take some suggestions. First of all, I want to thank everybody that watched my last video and commented on my last video. If you haven't already watched my last video, go check it out. I think it's a little bit funny that I found out about the different Linux dispos from a comment that was left on my last video. I think he commented about the dispo that he uses, and after that comment I got a lot of content on my Instagram feed about different Linux dispos that people prefer or which ones you shouldn't use. Low-key kind of fighting about which one is the best one. I'm just starting off in cybersecurity. This is my first time doing anything cybersecurity related, so it was recommended that I use Kali Linux and Ubuntu. It's got all the tools that I need, so those are the ones I'm going to be using for now. But as I become a little bit more seasoned in the craft, learn what tools I like the most, or whatever tools that will be most used for my future job, claiming it, then I'll be able to switch to a different one that better aligns with me. But for now, these work. Let me know what dispo you use and why you use it. Anyway, let's move on to what I learned this week. It's been a very interesting week. I learned a lot of cool things. As I'm going through my book, my boot camp, and working with Try Hack Me, I'm learning a lot of different cool things, and it can get a little bit overwhelming. But here are some topics that I learned this week. It has been a action-packed week full of a lot of information that I didn't know about before. For instance, I learned about the core cybersecurity principles, aka the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality being keeping unauthorized users from accessing important data, aka keeping it a secret. Integrity standing for accurate and unaltered data, aka keeping it truthful, and authenticity, keeping it available, aka keeping it alive, keeping it online, you know? Also learned about least privilege, defense in depth, and security through obscurity. I was also able to simulate least privilege in one of my labs that I'll talk about later in the video. Also learned about compliancy standards like HIPAA, PCI DSS, which is payment information, HIPAA being healthcare, and I learned about GDPR, which is European residents keeping their information safe. Also learned about some common threats like phishing, malware, denial of service, distributed denial of service, just to name a few. I was also able to simulate phishing in one of my labs. Also learned about malware types, worms, viruses, rootkits, Trojan horses, to name a few, and threat actors like script kiddies, hacktivists, and nation state actors, just to name a few. Though what I learned in my book kind of correlated with what I'm learning in my boot camp, I learned some additional things from the book that I'm reading, which is this book here. Core security principles, which go hand in hand with the CIA triad. Threats, vulnerabilities, and attacks. Security mechanisms and controls like risk appetite, and loss prevention. Policies, procedures, protected profiles, rules and responsibilities like CIO, which is Chief Information Officer, and CISO, which is Chief Information Security Officer, a security project team structure, data ownership and management, like the data owners, data custodians, data trustees, and the data users. I learned about the top-down approach and the bottom-up approach. Now on to the labs that I did this week. Okay, so for the labs this week, the labs are pretty cool. I was able to simulate phishing attack. I was also able to see what least privilege would look like in a real world situation. For my first lab, I performed a phishing simulation using my Kali Linux VM. I installed and launched GoFish, which I had never heard of GoFish before. I was able to access the admin UI via the VM's NAT IP, which I actually learned about NAT IPs last week, so all the things that I'm learning are coming in handy for future labs. I then created a phishing landing page and an email template. I configured MailHog, which I've never used before, never heard of. Essentially, I used it for my SMTP on port 1025, I believe. And I used this to safely capture outgoing emails, my test emails, and I was able to view them in Mailhog, which came in handy. From my Windows VM, because I also use Windows as my victim, and my Kali Linux was my perpetrator. So I was able to access the test email on my Windows VM, click the campaign link, which the campaign link led me to a landing page that I coded where I was prompted to put an email and a password, and once completed, I was able to see the data that was input on my landing page. So I submitted some fake credentials, a random email that I made up, and a random password. GoFish recorded the email delivery, the open, the clicks, and any submitted data. And once cross-referencing, I could see that I was picking up the correct data, which was quite neat, I'm not gonna lie. I do have to iterate that all testing was done in an isolated, controlled lab, so I wasn't doing this to nobody but myself. I think the lab was quite useful. I was also able to use real phishing tools to build a fake website, craft a spoofed email, and capture credentials, so I can imagine what this would look like in real world. Seeing the back end confirmed how easily it is to get telemetry, even something as small as clicking and opening up the email, which blew my mind. And simulating this lab helped me see how essential it is to not only inform other people of the dangers of phishing emails, but also train people on what they should do if they see a phishing email. Going forward, I'm not going to even take the time to open them. I used to open them up and delete them and report them. Now I'm just going to delete and report it. You're not getting me. In my next lab, I was able to simulate least privilege using AWS IAM, in which this is my first time using AWS. So it was a little bit confusing. In this lab, I created two users, my viewer user and my admin user. The viewer user was assigned read-only access, while my admin user was assigned admin access along with MFA, or a little bit of added security. I've heard of MFA. I think it stands for multi-factor authentication. A lot of different websites and apps and services have this built into their login experience. It just adds an extra layer of protection so that when you log in, you can verify who you are to make sure nobody can get into your account. It's very useful. The admin user had full access to services such as EC2, IAM, and I also created an IAM group with scope S3 permissions, allowing the view user to list, get, put, and delete objects from a specific bucket that I created. After setting up the group and the users, I tested both accounts by signing in on incognito mode to verify that each account could access the allowed permissions. All my permissions worked as expected, successfully demonstrating the application of least privilege. I think it's important that in any company, users should only have access to the minimum permissions that they need to complete their job. This really does reduce the risk of accidental, malicious misuse of access. Alright. So it's still early days, but I'm starting to see the vision. Concepts are beginning to stick in my mind. I was also able to secure Try Hack Me for the low using a VPN. I'm not gonna tell you, but read between the lines. So I'm gonna be doing that plus the bootcamp that I created, as well as using YouTube as an additional resource. You may be wondering, what's up with the title? Why are you lost? You don't really seem all that lost. Well, deep down, I kinda am, but hear me out. I've been learning a lot of valuable things this week and last week. I feel I shine best when it comes to the hands-on projects, where I can actually put the concepts to use and actually simulate real-world examples. I think my biggest worry as of right now stems maybe from the media that I consume. I can't deny that hearing so much doomer news about the job market isn't affecting my drive. Sometimes I can't help but to ask myself, why am I the anomaly? What's gonna make me stand out versus others who are putting just as much work in? Comparison, honestly, is the thief of joy. Ain't that the truth? I guess what I'm trying to say is, instead of asking myself, why am I the anomaly? I should be asking myself, why am I not? I am a real life believer of the law of attraction and the concept of confidence. If you show up confident, it radiates, and there is nobody who can stop you but you. Even if you don't even land that specific job, there's always something better fitting out there for you. Trust in the process and put a little bit more trust in yourself. As always, I want to hear your thoughts. So if you have anything to share, please don't hesitate to comment. If you have any resources, comment them as well. If you have any tips or tricks, please comment. And if you have any knowledge to share, share your knowledge. We share over here. Let's not gatekeep. And if you like any guides or any specific labs that I've done, comment down below and I'll gladly give you the resource. I'll even link a free resource to free labs that I recently found. And if you're also on a journey, keep your head up. We've got this. And I hope we can continue to encourage each other to do so. Thanks for watching.